we all know that you work together on Doctor Who, and we shall talk about those stories at great length later. But how did that partnership between you two begin?
I think it was about 1969 that I was working on restoring Georgian buildings in Clifton and Bristol, and Dave came down, I think, from London to live on pretty well on the same road, and I was running a small shop, I think, and my business partner brought an old friend of Dave's, brought him in to meet me, and we thereafter met several times at the local pub, where we discussed, among other things, what we'd like to do, and I think he had been in advertising, and I was just drifting, really. But I was doing animation. I had built a rostrum in my basement, and I was doing very, very limited bit of animation for mainly for Vision On, the programme for BBC. But that's how we met. We were introduced by a mutual friend.
So had you done any writing before?
Only for advertising. I spent about 18 months writing one commercial, which you're paid every week. You can afford to do that. And that was for Little X, which is in fact a suspender garment of some sort, which I'd never worn, I'm glad to say. But I had 18 months to perfect the work.
So when you did meet, what was it you were both interested in working on together?
Basically, we both wanted to do a movie. That's what we had in mind, a big, spectacular movie. And to that end, I was given the commission to do a cartoon of the poem of Peter Grimes by an illustrator who was, all he wanted to do with it was me for sort of zoom in and out of these black and white drawings and pan along them and that sort of thing, whilst somebody was booming over with the poem, And I just thought, this is such an incredible story, it needs more than just, this kind of animation. So I mentioned it to Dave, and that was to be our first project, Peter Grimes, which we wrote as a screenplay, as a movie screenplay. And amazingly, we sent it off to an associate, a friend of mine, sorry, who was in the business, and it damn nearly got made. The first thing we ever wrote. So it kept us going, you see.
What was the experience of working together like? I mean, how did you actually work together?
Usually, it was Bob's typewriter and my attempt at typing, and then it would be Bob's turn. So we used to take it turn and turn about, but I suppose I finally did most of the typing, and when things went wrong I'd get a bit overheated, and at one point I did put my fist through the typewriter. It was my typewriter at the time, but it did cost 50 quid, and it stopped me, I can tell you now, from being prima donna-ish.
I just wonder, because writing is such a personal thing, like a personal vision. I mean, partnerships obviously do work. So how did you get on together?
Well, we were lucky. It's as simple as that. I mean, we did get on in that area so well that it was a kind of shorthand that we spoke to each other all day. It wouldn't necessarily be comprehensible to anybody else. When we did the Peter Grimes thing, we stuck things in it that were not in the poem. Like I remember we called them, it was an attack by lobsters, so there's obviously a bit of science fiction in somewhere. The giant lobbies, and all this sort of said, yeah, we'll do that. We'll have a go like that. And it worked very well, and the guy, Bob's friend, offered us a considerable amount of money for it. So we thought, we could do this. We're away.
How long did it take to really get started?
But it was not immediate. I mean, it took us, I'd say, 6 or 7 months before we actually worked, side by side, at the piano, as it were. We wrote severally as well. I mean, we were always doing things. I mean, I was writing plays, Dave was writing plays, and that sort of thing, and then we'd come together on a bigger project or whatever, But I mean, in the first year, a stack of things we'd got completed, and we seemed to do them quite quickly because we were both working and working together as well. And all we needed was for it to come off. But in fact, although the film that we mentioned was very nearly made, at the last moment, the stack of cards that is a movie, it fell to pieces, and it didn't get made. So we were stuck there. But we had the drive to go on, because we knew we nearly got there in the first one. We didn't even think about television at all, and we thought, well, what's the best thing to do? Maybe we ought to get an agent, and but I mean, we didn't know any in London and everything. We were in Bristol at the time. And I shared an office with a theatrical agent. And one of his associates was a guy called Jim Buckingham, who was a sort of colourful character. And he said, well, I'll represent you guys, you know. And so we said, oh, right, might as well, can't do any harm. And he came up with, first of all, that the local TV station were looking for plays by local authors, that's HTV, and that there's a new head of programmes there. And so in his sort of work on our behalf, he managed for us to buy him dinner, you know. So we took the head of programmes of HTV out for dinner, but it worked. We got